Before I even begin ranking these games, I'd like to preface it by saying that some of these games aren't really clones, at least not in a negative way, but calling them ABA clones was kind of the best way I could think of classifying them without it being confusing. And I also planned on putting Troublesome Battlegrounds 2 on the list, but I kind of ended up forgetting it along the way, and I felt like it was unique enough for me to accept that it didn't really need to be on the list anyway. And it cut the total number of games I'm ranking down to a clean 10, which felt appropriate. I'll be honest, the first game is so truly horrendous that words really can't do it justice. I kind of even wanted to change the structure of this video from best to worst so I could really emphasize how horrendous this game is. But a lot of these games really aren't bad. Most of them just kind of stop getting updates and slowly fall into obscurity. But this, on the other hand, is fucking awful. So awful that I honestly can't even really see why this game ever released. First off, I doubt many people even remember Anime Unlimited 1. But if you do, you know it's fucking trash. It's practically unplayable. And again, not just now, it had been this bad. And the game is still open. You can open it, play it, see how awful it is yourself. But assuming you don't have enough energy to waste doing such bullshit, I can save you the time and give you the general cliff notes. First off, looking at the lobby right now, you can clearly see it's empty. And aside from a few buttons on the side of the screen, pretty much every feature in the game, like buying skins or gold or whatever, is tied to one of these random NPCs. Which is fine on paper, except in this game, there's literally no way to find out which NPC does what, except for walking up to every single NPC one by one, talking to them, reading the dialogue, and then finding out which one does what. Here's an image of the current ABA lobby without the names of the NPCs. Now, even if you've never played or seen this game in your entire life, if I asked you which one of these NPCs sells gold, you could 100% tell me. And even if you're a little more experienced in Roblox games, you could probably tell me that Nami is the AFK world, or even Goku is ranked. I'm gonna show an image right now, and I want you to tell me which one of these NPCs is the gold shop. If you're expecting me to reveal it after your guess, well, you're out of luck because I have no fucking clue. Another thing I'd like to point out is how egregious some of these animations are. Sometimes if you use a move, they'll just randomly blur everything on your entire screen or just shake it to all hell. I mean, look at this. Another thing I bet you didn't notice is that all of this footage of the game that I've been playing has had the audio on. The game is that fucking quiet. Why? I don't know. Maybe it just has something to do with this game just being completely lost to time and whatnot. But I have a hard time making that excuse considering it's not like the sounds are missing. They're just incredibly quiet. Anyway, I don't want to waste any more time on this considering the next one is pretty much just as bad. So without further ado, let me talk about the next entry on our list. Now, while I seriously doubt anyone even remembers this game, if they know about it at all, that is. It was a little popular when it came out, and I think Infernasu played it, but outside of him, I don't even think I could find footage of this game. As a matter of fact, I don't even remember if I played this game. While I don't think it's quite as bad as Anime Unlimited 1, like I said, I think its crime is far worse than being trash, considering the fact that I had to not only reach into the back recesses of my mind to even remember that this game existed, I had to then comb through countless YouTube videos with titles like New Anime Game and things of that nature to even find the name of this game. If you were to ask me the legacy of this game, I'd probably say, I don't know, I remember playing Naruto. And as much as I'd like to go on and on about how shitty the game is, I have such little memory of this game that it's not even possible. I do not even remember the game. I do remember that they had like launchers on E or something like that. I don't know. But it's safe to say that this game was not going places. Now, to any of the knowers out there, Anniversary Showdown was doomed before it even began. If I remember correctly, before the game even came out, one of the developers leaked the code, and everyone was just uploading copies of the game, which obviously wasn't great. To be fair to its ranking, I moved it up because the version that was played wasn't really supposed to be released. And I don't even think the game ever ended up releasing, but I could be wrong about that. Although I do vaguely remember them uploading it amidst all the chaos, or like shortly after, with no plans on ever like updating the game just to get it out, I guess. Anyway, it did have some slightly cool stuff. Like I remember they let Sasuke copy moves with his Sharingan, and most games don't really let Kid Sasuke do anything with his Sharingan. And again, with this game, I really can't say much about it since it kind of came and went really quickly. Despite all that, I'd say this game again, the game was doomed before it ever even came out. The developers, I think, pretty much all hated each other. It was not a good sign.
You gonna get it now, dude! That's the grass sword!
Before I even talk about any of these games, I pretty much grouped all of them together, and I'm pretty sure there's like a third one that came out more recently. And I spent some time looking for it. I honestly couldn't find the name of it. I don't even know if it's actually related to the other two, but they're all pretty much the same thing. So I'm just lumping them all together in this one spot. And one of the main things these games did, they gave every single character at least 2 combo extending barrages. Every single character. And some would have more. I think I remember Gumball in one of them had like 3 combo extenders. Another thing, the first version of this game, Cartoon Smackdown, I don't think it had up tilts. I think you just had to M1 into your 3 combo extenders and just kill everybody in your path. Although the game wasn't all bad, there was some charm to the original, which is still open. I remember really liking the voice lines in this game, and sometimes I'll still quote them to this day. Like Rigby's ham boning, or when Finn uses his grass sword, he's like, "You're gonna get it now, dude. It's the grass sword." And even though most people will just think I'm quoting the show, I'm usually not. Now, very few people will remember Anime Strive, and I know I said this about a lot of games so far, but this is the first game on the list that I'd say is almost kind of pretty good. Despite the fact that this game was obviously destined to fail, I'd say it really wasn't that bad. It came out in a time where Deep Woken was thriving and everybody kind of wanted to hop on the whole parry-based combat wave. Type Soul wasn't out yet, but the developers let some people play early, and there was a lot of videos kind of teasing the eventual release of Type Soul. And as much hate as parry-based combat gets nowadays, they're usually pretty fun regardless. Although this game would not really thrive nowadays. People really don't like to play this kind of thing. And despite some of the obvious problems, like how generally clunky and slow it felt, but all things considered, if the game stuck around a little longer, I think it could have ended up being pretty good. Now, Anime Battlegrounds X, or Eternal Battlegrounds, which I think they changed the name to a little bit after it came out, it's basically just a better version of Anime Strive, so I'm inclined to place it a little higher. Even though I do remember having a lot more fun playing Anime Strive. And I'll be honest, it's really more of a Battlegrounds game, akin to a Strongest Battlegrounds or Jujutsu Shenanigans rather than an ABA type of game. But it did have ranked, so I might as well include it. And in all honesty, even though I gave all the praise to Anime Strive a little bit, Anime Strive was good despite its shortcomings, and Eternal Battlegrounds was pretty much the exact opposite, being bad despite all the good things it had going for it. Because, for those who don't know, Eternal Battlegrounds was made by Uzu, and if you don't know who that is, he was the lead developer for YBA, and at the time, that game was a lot more popular than it is now. And just to make sure that both games would be able to thrive, Uzu made a completely separate team for both games that were supposed to coexist. But when it came out, people played a bit here and there. It just didn't really stick. Which makes sense, since, as I mentioned before, it's really a Battlegrounds game at its core, and suffers a lot of the problems that all Battlegrounds games kind of have. Since, at the end of the day, there's really no rhyme or reason to their existence, since, unlike a game like ABA, for example, there is no default game mode. You hop into ABA, you press play, you put straight into a public server. And as a matter of fact, when you open this game, you're presented with two different options: main game and game modes, which accurately assesses their main game as something that really isn't a game mode at all. The game plays fine. Although when I went to record footage for the game, my connection wasn't the best. But that was mostly a me problem. But the game wasn't the worst, so I think it deserves to be in the top 5, even though it's not really a top 5 so much as it is like a top 2.5, because pretty much every game on this list is pretty horrible.
Easy, easy, easy. Oh, that combo's mean.
All right, Anime Showdown. Before I even begin to talk about Anime Showdown, a small gripe I had with this game is the name was Anime Showdown, yet they would always shorten it to AXS. And what the hell is the X supposed to be? Yeah, I get it's just supposed to be like X for the sake of there being an X, like Hunter x Hunter or Hori Kenshin or shit like that. Anyway, a big thing with these games, apart from a few like AUR that I'll bring up again later, is the character rosters. Anime Showdown released with this weird idea that they couldn't add normal anime characters like Goku, Naruto, Luffy, or Ichigo because they were too common or something like that. But just a word of advice for any future anime fighting game makers: you 100% need to add Goku, Naruto, Luffy, and Ichigo. The root problem of this game really is bigger than that, though. Before it even came out, the community was constantly throwing around the phrase ABA killer, and their character roster, like I mentioned, greatly suffered from it. It kind of tried to be the exact antithesis to ABA's character roster. And for those who don't know, ABA has a lot of characters. So if you want to make a game that strictly has characters that ABA doesn't have, you're not going to have a lot of characters. You want to play Shinra? Well, ABA doesn't have him. You want to play Joker? Well, you can't do that in ABA. You want to play as Bambietta? What? What do you mean you don't want to play as Bambietta? You want to play as Luffy? One of the most popular characters in the world? Well, let's see. He's got a One Piece roster. Let's see. Luffy's got to be on here somewhere. Oh. Well, we've just got Katakuri. Well, you can't play him in ABA? All things considered, though, the game isn't unplayable. So to sum up everything pretty briefly, I'd say charging mechanic wasn't needed. Evasives in this game were alright, but I'll get into the problems with this game's evasive in the next entry. They had a weird dash mechanic also. It's pretty much completely useless. Although I think it might have only been in public servers, but I could be thinking of another game. And the roster was, well, as you know it, pretty much barren. And visually, the game was pretty alright. But I'd argue that the next entry pretty much was just a better version of this. Also, yeah, this game cost money when it came out. was reluctant to say it at first, but yeah, this is the top 3. You could categorize these 3 things as the top of some sort. I remember truly loathing AUR when it first came out. I even had a few videos up of me complaining about the game, which I don't think are up anymore. One thing I can remember for sure about this game is the fact that you had no air combos, which I think maybe they might have gone back and added since. But when it came out, you literally had to just M1 into every single move. And every character had like 3 or 4 combo extenders. This right here, this is what the average combo looked like around the time I last played. And this shit is truly egregious. Everybody just had a million combo extenders and could just 100 to 0 you on the fucking ground. It was absurd. But the main thing with these games, which I'll get more into on one of the later games, is that they'll mostly focus on making the animations look cool and having the best looking effects while completely neglecting the actual gameplay. Although if I'm being totally honest, most of the problems I had with this game have since been vindicated over time through updates. And overall, compared to the next 2, I think it sits comfortably at 3. Shonen Unleashed. I'd say this and the number 1 entry are kind of the only games that I kind of liked. And like I said before, Shonen Unleashed was pretty much just anime Showdown if it wasn't bad. Not to say the game was perfect, but it pretty much did everything Anime Showdown did, but better. Evasives in Anime Showdown basically functioned as a timer for whatever combo you were being hit with, because without it, you're 100% getting killed. Anime Showdown had so many combo tools and extenders and different ways to extend your combo that without the evasives, every combo would kill you. But in Shonen Unleashed, evasives were kind of more of a tool that you could use at your own disposal. You could save them for later combos that may or may not kill you, or you could use them as soon as you get them. The game itself played fine, and it had some pretty fun gimmicks, but the reason I'd say the game is overall worse than ABA and even the next game on this list is because everything in the game felt a little too polished. There really wasn't any, jank to it, for lack of a better term. And I'd say the jank in ABA is largely a part of the fun. Whether it be move stacks, up fling extends, or any other unintentional tech. Without that, the game feels a little bland. Fun, but bland. Even if you look outside of Roblox, any competitive game always has some form of unintentional tech that the players themselves create. Then the developers can balance the game around that rather than keeping the players restricted to the features in the game. Like Fortnite, Rocket League, and Gears with buildings, flip resets, and wall bounces respectively. Or to go even further back, the concept of combos as a whole, which was a bug in Street Fighter 2, which the developers kept in games to come. Overall, the game was pretty much alright, still playable, decently fun, but the combos did kind of feel a little repetitive, since as I mentioned before, you didn't have much free range as to how you could extend. Something that the next game especially excelled in. This game really isn't an ABA clone, as well as a few others on the list. This game largely had an identity of its own, being more similar to a traditional fighting game rather than a direct competitor to ABA, with a lot of cool features like limit bursts, wall bounces, installs, dash cancels, assists, and a bunch of other stuff that you'd normally find in a traditional fighting game. Either way, I'm still counting it because I want an excuse to talk about how much I like this game. And with that being said, I don't have much bad to say about Heaven's Arena. This game is genuinely one of my favorite games on the platform, so I might be a little biased. Playing this game was the first time I ever got views on a YouTube video. If you look at what's now the entire back catalog of my YouTube channel, a lot of it is Heaven's Arena combos, some with 10, 20k views. And that was pretty much the first time I'd ever really gotten views on a YouTube video. Like I said, bias aside, it's not to say this game doesn't deserve the praise. First off, out of all 10 games on this list, this is one of the 2 games that make you play a tutorial. Something that ABA didn't even have at the time, which they since went back and added. Another great thing about this game was the combos. They were honestly so cool that I'll still hop into training and just sit around doing combos even to this day. Another strong suit was its character roster. Most of the other games that I've been through released with about 15 to 20 characters at the absolute most. Heaven's Arena released with a whopping 50 characters, give or take a few. To put that into perspective, this game came out in about April 2022. So even ABA, which had obviously more characters than all of these games, then and now, only had about 70 or 80-ish characters. And I honestly think if this game had kept up with monthly updates, it'd still have players to this day. Although I do know MLG and Halo have some intentions on releasing the game's final update, and even had talks about releasing a potential sequel, which could also be cool. This game is one of the only games on this list, probably the only game on this list, that I'd say is actually better than ABA. This game really just never had the right market. I guess that's everything. Here's a tier list, I guess. And I guess if this video does well, I'll probably do a ranking of those obby butt games that came out a while ago. A while back, I planned on ranking every single Goku and ABA clones, but I never ended up making that.